now. Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brett.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin. I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed it last week, but I was down south.
I think you were doing great things for a bunch of young people there, Coach. And we said it in the last podcast, but our hats off to you on that. And we all had a lot of respect for what you're doing and helping young people who have some challenges. And nothing more admirable. I'm butchering that word up real bad. I'm using my East Texas in that. But my hats off to you, my friends.
Well, I wrote about it this week in the coach's thoughts, but actually they did more for me than I feel like I did for them. They'd actually taught me about caring for people a whole lot less fortunate than you that can't do a thing for you. And somehow they show you more love than you can ever show them. So it was a great experience, not only for our son, Colin, which you know is disabled, but also for Linda and I working at the camp. I believe we were blessed a whole lot more than they were. So it was amazing.
Well, I will say, and you know, I know your coach's thought's going to come out, and I got the opportunity to take a quick look at it to say that, and I thought it was wonderful. And to be honest, is we could use a lot more of that in America and a lot less bickering. We'll probably bicker a little tonight. That's all right, but we could use a lot more of that in America, to be honest. So anyway, so go ahead, Coach.
Well, I want to say when we got pretty much we can start calling this thing the coach, the vet, and Allen. I'm saying let's just do it. We'll just call it Pittsburgh's finest. And so, we have again tonight with us Mr. Alan Bailey, one of my all-time favorite people. I could tell so many stories about growing up in the same neighborhood, but I think the best thing to do is just tell me what's going on, Alan.
Man, hey, it's great to be back. I said, I got a text from Ian today. Hey, we had a person drop out. Hey, can you fill in? I said, I feel like Mario Rivera now, man. I'm like coming out of the bullpen at a moment's notice, ready to go. But it's great, man. I love being on here. I told Ian after the last one, man, it gets easier. I don't mind. Hey, man, I never really care what anybody thinks anyway. So it's making it a lot easier now to talk on here. And I'm loving it, man. Every time y'all want me, I told him I'm here if I'm available.
Well, great. I hope Ian told you that we don't have New York Yankees money for Mario Rivera type stuff. I just want you to know that.
That's all right. He can buy me some hot links when I come home.
That'll be a done deal on the hot links. Who we got here, Alan?
Hey, I'm gonna tell you these characters right here. You know, people always asking what party you with, and I know Ian talked about it in one of his Friday Ponders, and y'all talked about it on here. And yesterday, I had a gentleman ask me what party I was with. I didn't even know this guy, and I told him I was with the American Party. But this is my party right here. This is who I'm with. I'm going to vote for who's going to take care of these folks right here and take care of me and take care of this country. So I don't care about parties. I care about America. I care about these four people right here. And that's the way I vote. What's taking care of us. So if it's a Democrat that's going to help me, if it's a Republican that's going to help us and make this place great, that's how I'm voting.
Alan, I love it. I love it. I love it. And Alan, I apologize, you being the closer, that we didn't play any like rock song when you come up on here. You know, they always do that for the closers and everything.
Yeah. You could have played the Sandman, but I know that's copyrighted.
Yeah. You know, you get your hand spanked for doing copyright on these things. So, hey, Coach, so I got somebody really cool that I haven't seen in many years, but I followed on Facebook. Tremendous person, a former Delta dog who we both went to Iraq together. And I had the pleasure of being able to serve around her, and a great family person altogether. She's got 4 kids. And not only that, she is a notorious rollerblader, and she teaches people how to be nurses, and she's been working on her doctorates as well. So I'm going to introduce to you Stephanie Valentine tonight here, Coach. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? I agree with Alan there. I do tend to lean more Democrat on things, as Ian knows. But I want to vote for who's going to protect me and my family best and have our interest at heart, ultimately. So.
Well, Stephanie, I have to kind of, oh, look at here.
So who do we got here? I apologize, Coach.
You're fine. That's my crazy family. Husband in front taking the picture, and my 4 little ones, which 2 of them aren't so little anymore. That's my world now. Everything I do is for them.
That's awesome.
That's a lovely crew right there. I'll tell you that. And both Alan and Stephanie, y'all both got wonderful families. And to me, probably the most important role we can be is be a parent or be an influence in a family, and then kind of filter out after that. So, but this is our guest tonight, Coach. I think we got a good crew on tonight.
Well, I'm really excited about it. Also, I want to say something to Stephanie. I'm kind of the same way as her. A lot of people consider me to be a whole lot more conservative than I think, because just some of the way that I feel or think or maybe even speak. But if being honest, if you go back and see who I voted for the last 6 presidential elections, it's pretty much half and half. My dad, if he was still alive, he would probably shut the computer out now. I voted for Clinton twice. I just want you to know. So anyway, we'll get on with that. I want to talk about first tonight is what in the world that is going on with these Texas Democrat maskless flying to D.C. causing a ruckus up there. Abbott's acting a fool. So they decided to skip town. So kind of wanted to start out discussing this and getting everybody's opinion on it. My opinion has actually shifted a little bit from when it first happened because, we've been hearing so much about get rid of the filibuster, don't like the filibuster. And then all of a sudden the Texas Democrats pull a filibuster. So that was one part of it that was initially just like, man, I can kind of understand what they're doing, but it, hypocrisy a little bit. But then when the COVID hit and the COVID, and then the pictures of the plane with the mask, and then we got 2 people, then 3 people, now we got 6 people. Now we got some of the White House possibly that got COVID from this whole fleeing of Texas, however you want to say it. So, man, Alan, I have been waiting since Ian told me that you were going to be on here. I want to know what you think about this.
Well, I wish I'd have found out what we were talking about a couple of days ago. That would have made it a lot easier. But you know what? I've always thought I wish I could just not show up to work and just go off and not tell my boss, not do anything. Because I'm going to tell you what, I'd probably be unemployed. Especially 5 or 6 years ago when I was still serving the great Uncle Sam. It wasn't nobody going. I wasn't going home just because I didn't agree with what the colonel of the sergeant major said. This is how we're going to do it. No, I don't like this. I'm going to go home until y'all change your mind. And then when they go and they don't wear their mask, and we knew the federal law says, hey, no matter what airplane you're supposed to have your mask on. Well, I guess that didn't pertain to them. They're special. And then when I found out, this is going to be cold-hearted, but when I found out they had COVID and got caught with that, I didn't really have a pain in my heart for none of them. You ask for, you do something stupid, sometimes you have to face the consequences, and karma will bite you in the butt every once in a while. But, I think running off just so they didn't have to vote, because they probably figured, we're going to lose this vote. So let me run off and see if I can't get the federal government to help us down there in Texas. I think that was extremely wrong.
Well, and I'll have to say this before I kick it over to Stephanie, is that Barack Obama said something, I've studied history most of my life, but he said something that always stuck with me. Elections have consequences. And right now we've got a situation in the National Senate where, the National House of Representatives, that there's more Democrats than Republicans. There's going to be more Democrat agenda taken care of than there are Republican, because that's what the American people voted for in those areas. We now have, in Texas, we have more a Republican than we do Democrat. So they're not actually going to win. And then I actually started to read the actual bill. And you've been hearing about the suppression and the new Jim Crow and things like that. There is no suppression in the bill at all. And when I thought, wait a minute, I read it once, and then I was listening to Dan Abrams, which is the furthest thing from a Republican. And he said, look, I have been through this bill, the latest bill they have, that they've actually compromised. Both sides have come together. There is no voter suppression on this bill. So I don't know why they were fleeing. So Stephanie, I'm not only do I want your take on it, but also want to know how you feel about the sequence of events from fleeing, then the mass photo, and then COVID, and now we have some White House issues with COVID.
Well, much like you, Coach, at first I seen it as plenty other Democrats and Republicans have tried this method in the past. So I understand why they would want to try it. However, it hasn't worked. It hasn't been successful. So who does something knowing it's going to fail? So my opinion has changed. It has changed from, oh, they're doing the right thing to, are they? Like Alan said, being ex-military, we don't ignore our boss. I didn't agree to going to Iraq, but I didn't have a say. That's my job, so that's what I did. I didn't question it. So if I'm getting paid by the government, I should probably be doing my job. And if I don't like it, that's fine. I try to progress and make change.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm with you on that, Stephanie, is this, some people have used the word grandstanding because you know that you're actually not going to win and you fly off to go. Now, these guys are Texas Democrats for the House of Texas. This isn't representatives of the nation. This is actually representative of Texas. They fly off to D.C., from what I understand, is to try to get people in the Senate and the House to pull together a federal voting bill, which that's not their job. But I understand, what you're trying to do, but that's not your job. Your job is to take care of Texas. And when you flee, it sets an example to most of us, like Alan said, and you said, there's a lot of things at my job working in the prison system and the charter school system that I don't agree with a lot. But you have to weigh that. Do I want to work here? Do I want to keep my job? Or I just don't come? And most of us can't just not come. And the powers that be in politics seem to be not just Democrats, but also Republicans. What happened up north about a year and a half ago is if we don't want to lose a vote because we lost it in the election, we don't want to lose it on the floor, let's just don't show up. That's just not an example I want to give not only to kids, but also to the country to say, hey, yeah, I know we lost the election, but oh, well, we don't care. We're just not going to show up. That's just not something or a place that I think we should be as a country. But with the divisiveness that we have right now, it seems to be more and more the norm.
Well, so Coach, a couple of things I'll say is it's almost we're in a society nowadays. If I don't get my way, I throw the tantrum, or if I don't get my way, I go to the far extreme. And my question is not to be answered, but the question is what's the next extreme? Because once we cross a bridge, where do we cross from there? You know what I'm saying? Because we keep on pushing the interstate a little further, and because we got to outdo the last time. And so my question, that's my first part of the question. What's ironic about this is we are focused pretty much on the 58 Democrats that left, but mind you, there are 16 that are still in the Congress that are back there working with the Republicans, their counterparts. There are 12 senators still left that are back there working on the bill. I found out today as well. So I think that's a good thing. But there's a whole lot of bad things with this. And first I'll start off is they estimated that this trip will cost $1.5 million when it's said and done with. $1.5 million, $221 a day for every one of those 58 that are out of the state for per diem while they're supposed to be in special session. Okay. And then you got to pay for the private plane, whoever paid for that. My understanding, it was the Democratic caucus that paid for it. I'm glad to know that's going to good use and helping some communities or something. I would say the same thing toward the Republican side too. The other thing, and I'll get right to you, Coach. The one thing I will say though is I'm just going to hit the Texas part of it real quick is we're from the state of Texas. We stood at the Alamo and we fought when we had our disagreements. Everybody died, except for one. Think of Chris Kyle and things of that nature, people that we know from Texas that have always stood their ground. And these are the people that represent us, and they flee during the time of this right here. So I just think that kind of sits a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And the one part I will say is it was almost as if it was staged because they wanted to push the national, let's kill the filibuster. As soon as they got up there, one of them even recorded saying, we're coming up here to kill the oppressive Republicans, obstructionist Republicans. so we kill the filibuster. But if you go on the TexasHouseDems.gov site, we invite all Texans. Let's stop the divisive rhetoric and partisan politics, and we just invite all Texans to join us in fighting for a better state, pretty much. But when I hear that comment that she was proud to publish, I'm not hearing where you're sitting there trying to fight being divisive. That's just me. But go ahead, Coach. I apologize. I took a little too long there.
Oh no, you're fine. And what I wanted to make sure before we go off of this topic that I think is key is some of the talking points and the talking words that you might hear are voter suppression or new Jim Crow or things like that. Now I can understand if you're going to say we're not going to allow this bill to go through. We can't do it on conscience because it's going to suppress votes of one party or one a color or race or whatever. But it's now known, and even the guy Talico, I believe his name is. And correct me if that's how you don't say his name.
Talarico,
when he was on MSNBC, and I heard him again on Dan Abrams, he admitted that this bill does not have any suppression in it. And then I read the bill, and there's no suppression in it where it says these people can't vote. I mean, it's not even that at this point. Now I do have to agree with this, and this is what Abrams said. I totally agree with. There didn't even need to be a new bill. There was not any issue with the old bill, but because of some of the issues that have come up in the last 5 years of voting, they wanted to change some things. This wasn't a new bill. They've been trying to change some of these things for 4 or 5 years, but this wasn't needed. Some of the things that they are adding to it is not suppression at all. They're actually adding more days and some longer hours. But I just don't get the titty sucking mama baby thing of jumping on a plane and leaving the state over something that wasn't suppression, or wasn't even something that bad. So Alan or Stephanie, if someone saw something in it or have heard something that we can verify that's bad about it, let's get on a plane ourselves and act a fool. But I think what you're saying, Bet, is correct. They wanted to get involved with the whole nation, this national voter thing, and think, let's go up there and support and push, VP Harris, the Senate, the House, to get a nationwide voter, and forgot where they came from. They're supposed to be protecting and voting in Texas right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. The way they went about it, it was wrong. Stay here and fight your battles in Texas where you're supposed to be fighting. If you're fighting for your fellow Democrats, you're not helping them going to D.C. You need to be back here in Texas. And nothing else. Now you got the governor that's all mad at you, threatened to arrest you. So you really ain't gonna do us no good. Oh, now you got COVID, so now you can't even come up there and do any type of debating and working on trying to get a good deal. And I read the vets post the other day on Facebook when he that's matter of fact, that's the only way I know what the bill was about, really, because I read what he posted. Hey, I can't find anything on there. They're giving you more hours to vote. We're one of the few states. I mean, like he posted, the president's own state, they don't even have early voting. So I don't see what the problem is. And then, I get they can't be debating about the ID card thing, having some ID to vote, because, man, like we get a fishing license, you got to show them an ID card. And what the vet's wife had to go through to get a daggum new driver's license is ridiculous. So yeah, stay here, don't fight, work together. That's what we're supposed to be doing, working together. That's the problem now. There's too much fighting. We need to come together, and I ain't saying we need to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but work together. Come to a good middle that takes care of everybody in the state of Texas.
And it's and Alan, it's okay to lose because you lost the election. You make the point to the public that, hey, we're not for this bill. This bill should have never came up. We're going to stand our ground on this. We'll filibuster here at home, do whatever we have to do. We'll get out on the front step and say how wrong we think it is. And remember this when the election comes around in next cycle, people in the state of Texas, that these guys are doing this and wasting our time. They didn't need to do it, and fight the battle in the next election. But the fly off like that is the Democrats have been coming on an upswing in Texas, getting closer and closer and closer to a 50-50. And this is something that can set them back, because this looks like, a sore loser type syndrome to Texans. I'm not saying it is, but Texans look at things a little bit different a lot of times. If it wasn't for Austin, Dallas, and Houston, Democrats wouldn't have a chance in hell to ever win Texas. But guess what? Dallas, Austin, and Houston are so big and growing. This is going to put them back, I think, a couple elections because of the way they acted. Last thing I want to say on this, Stephanie, and I'm going to throw it to you, is I just went to Cancun, and we had to wear a mask in the airport, through customs, on the airplane, all the way. Even Mexico did the same to us. When we hit in Mexico's airport, we had to have it on, had to have it in customs, have it in airplane. And I had someone the other day on Facebook say, well, yeah, but they took a private airplane, and privates are treated differently. Well, I didn't know COVID only dealt with poor people that fly public and don't rich people that are private. Are we really getting to a point where we're just saying, because we agree so much that with our party, that we're going to give every excuse we can to say it's okay not to wear a mask, or it's okay that you have to wear a mask just based on my agenda? And I think sometimes we get so much with the party, and like you both said, we should be more of an American party. Some things are just right and some things are just wrong. And so, Stephanie, when I first saw that photo, I had to catch myself. And I thought, I just came off of a plane where the freaking lady that was bringing the cart by, her job that day was to harass me and people around us by saying, pull it up over your nose. Don't let it get below your nose. Make sure that's all they did the whole time on the airplane. And these guys are not wearing a mask at all. I don't know how they could do that.
No, I agree 100%, Coach. Like I said, normally I lean heavy Democrat, heavy liberal, but right is right, bottom line. Masks are for everyone's safety. So for someone to be arrogant enough to say, oh, I don't need a mask, it won't hurt me. Why you? What do you know that the rest of us don't know? Are you trying to say you're more important than my family? How is that beneficial to anyone? And I really feel bad for the people that have to, their whole job is to harass people, to tell them to pull their mask up over their nose. I do that daily when I talk to adult students. I have to tell them, and that's not part of and I'm teaching medical students. So it shouldn't be something that we have to say so much. As an adult, take responsibility, not only for your life, but for someone else who can't take that responsibility for theirs.
I agree. Now, Vet, this was a great topic. I think we can talk about it for a whole lot longer. It has so many dynamics to it, not just from a filibuster standpoint or for Texas nation, also the COVID, the mask, the governor. I mean, if you really want somebody to really act a fool, if let's just say Abbott decided he was going to retire and his last bit of before retirement was, hey, you know what? Let me just go ahead because the law says I can arrest their butt when they hit Texas. Let's just arrest them, and then I'll resign. I mean, it's like we're doing these crazy things politically that it wouldn't even surprise me anymore, Vet. So anyway, probably next topic's best, but put your mask on when you're on a plane, peeps.
Yeah, Coach. So I'm going to say real quick here is you and I have witnessed a lot of people turning a blind eye when it's convenient to their ideology or party. And you and I have discussed this a lot, and so has Alan. You might not have heard all this, Stephanie, before. I have no loyalty whatsoever to a party. I lean a certain way to conservative, but you know what? They're an elected official. They're not breaking their backs. They're sitting in a cushy air-conditioned office, and they're making laws for us to follow, and they expect us to follow them. So why would they not have to follow the laws that are made before them? And so I have no respect, and I will be the first one to call one out in a heartbeat because they are elected official. And they got an easy job. All they have to do is argue, get along, and sign some damn bills. I mean, that is it. And back to your Cancun thing, my wife's going to Germany in 2 months, but it could very well be shut down. And if we didn't watch what just happened, 6 of them got the COVID. That first day, the stock market dropped tremendously. You don't think that doesn't affect the world because they all question, are we back on the rebound or not? You know what I'm saying? It kind of timbered down, but heaven forbid if there's more of them or they affected more of the White House and things of that nature. And let's just face the fact, Joe Biden's not a spring chicken, okay? He don't need that crap around him at all. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, with that there, I think we're good, Coach. I'm going to throw out an advertisement here. So come check us out in the Coach and the Vet. get an opportunity, try to buy some of our stuff. We're on thecoachingthevet.com, and that's where you can find all of our stuff, include all our podcasts, all our write-ups, all our merchandise, and those pennies pay for this right here and allows us to have this podcast. So with that, I'm going to the second topic, and as of recently, we just pulled out of the country of Afghanistan, and I'm going to lay the groundwork. President Trump originally had planned for us to pull out in May, and then when President Biden came on, says, no, we're not going to do that. And he put September 11th as the timeline, in which I was not a fan of that, to do a celebratory date and what would happen if somebody died between May and then. But we just pulled out just recently, and I do like that we did it that way, kind of hit a little bit. But we spent close to 20 years there. I'm not sure exactly the number. And so I'm going to ask, what is your thoughts on this, Stephanie, to start out with, of us pulling out of Afghanistan?
I'm probably going to surprise you with this, but I'm glad we pulled out. I think we were there way too long, to be 100% honest. Way too many people lost their lives for something that we thought we accomplished. The goal was to get bin Laden. We got him. So what was our real goal? To be there? In America, a lot of times we are a powerhouse. We are a super nation. We do have a lot of strength in our military, but we are not the only ones. So while we should jump in and help when we are needed, we absolutely shouldn't just take over, because then other countries see us as invaders, and we don't want that. Look, when we went into Iraq, the same thing happened. People seen us as invading, and then we end up fighting for a reason when we're trying to help. So a little bit of time is okay, but it was far time to pull out. I agree 100%.
So, Alan, I'm going to ask you, and you and I were both over there in the illustrious land of Afghanistan, which I didn't see too much pretty things out there, to be quite honest with you. I thought Iraq was bad, but I think Afghanistan was a slum to Iraq. And please, people don't take it personal, but it was not. Iraq looked a lot better to me in my mind than Afghanistan did. And but what are your thoughts on this of us leaving? And the other part, I'm gonna ask a second part, and I meant to hit you, Stephanie, but it'll come back to you. Is some will say that we didn't win this war, and what are your thoughts on that as well? So go ahead, Alan.
I agree with Stephanie to a point. It was time to get out, to reduce the numbers, because we ain't got out of Germany, we ain't out of Korea. I'm pretty positive we're still in some other countries. But my question is, we're gone. All the Taliban's doing, they're just waiting. When I think I heard the number, we're going to leave a couple of hundred. Okay, that's a speed bump, and not enough to do anything. But what's it going to cost us now when we have to go back? Because I'm going to tell you, we'll probably be back. I just have that feeling. I hope not. I mean, I went to Afghanistan once, Iraq twice, and I don't want to go to either one of them places ever again. And like you said, Ian, I didn't see anything pretty. And I was down in the middle of a bowl in the middle of the desert, and I didn't see anything pretty the whole time I was there. And I flew across a lot of places. And the one flight you know about, I was holding on. I wasn't looking out the window. But I think we did need to pull out. But I think we're going to too small of a contingency force that we're leaving. A couple of hundred guys. I'm guessing that's probably going to be some Marines to protect whatever embassy we have over there. But what I really thought was funny, Ian, is that I can't remember what news it was. They were just we pulled out and we just left all this equipment over there. We left out. I said, okay, well, I went through a drawdown in Iraq. We leave a lot of stuff over there. Everywhere we go, we leave stuff. And I might be wrong, Ian. You went higher than I did, and you saw a lot more as far as funds and stuff, but I'm almost positive that there is United States funds and there's war funds. And what you buy with those funds over there, that stuff has to stay there. It ain't like we just leave it and roll out. That's the way the news was trying to portray it. We just, in the middle of the night, we snuck out on airplanes and just left stuff. We go through a process. We sign all that stuff over to the Afghan army, and then they're talking about, and then there was just looting. Okay, that's the Afghan army's fault, because we left it to you. You need to protect it and keep it on there, and you use it the way we showed you how to use it. So I agree. We need to come out, but that contingency force still needs to be there, because having fought and trained and worked with a lot of the Afghan army and the Iraqi army, I don't think that either one of those places are ready to defend themselves if the Taliban really decides we're going to take it. The question whether or not did we win. Like Stephanie said, the goal was to go and get bin Laden. Okay, we won that one. We got that one. And that's a good question. Why were we still there? Well, I'm pretty positive it was lining a whole lot of politicians' pockets, for one, and making who are the folks that the folks that helped keep them in office, that have all these big industries and these big companies that was sending equipment to Afghanistan and helping the Afghanistan government and getting paid off of that. That's another reason we were probably there a little longer than we should. We lost a lot of people, a lot of good heroes. Those are the heroes right there. The ones that we lost in the ground, that we lost over there, fighting a good fight and doing what our country asked for us to do. I'd say it's kind of split. We might have won and we might have tied. And I think that's the way I look at it. It might have been a win and a tie.
Oh, Alan, I appreciate it. Coach, are you still on? Because I got a weird look on there on you. So I'm going to move on. I think he's having S6 difficulties again. So one thing I'll say here is regards to Afghanistan, and I'm going to get into some interpreter stuff here in a minute, but the first thing I'm going to say is I think we truly won the war outright. Our goal was to topple the Taliban and to go pursue Al-Qaeda, and as well as to get rid of bin Laden. We did the first one. We toppled that government like in 3 months. And so that was not an issue whatsoever. And then after that, we sit there and we had to chase after Osama bin Laden. That took almost 10 years, at the end of the day. But this is a theory I got. You kind of hit on it, Alan, a little bit here. And what I'll say is when you go into a country like that, I think you have to go in one of two ways, and we didn't go in either one of those ways. Is the first way is, what about the American influence? So any country, as you stated, Alan, that we've influenced very well, Germany, South Korea, and Japan, we won those wars. We've been in those countries for 68 years for South Korea, and over 70 years for the other two. Those countries have all turned out to be a huge success, because we still have troops there. We might not have troops in their government, things of that nature, but we have troops on the ground there. And each one of those countries have that success. So my deal is to America, did we have the patience to do that in the Mideast with a country like Iraq or Afghanistan? And I can tell you America does not have that patience to do that whatsoever. We don't have the appetite for that. And so that's a major. That's my first philosophy. So either you go in all like that, or you go in to fill your first objective, which was we should have left after bin Laden was killed. Because what I got after bin Laden was killed, is we kind of sit there. Bin Laden was killed in 2011, I think March or May of 2011. I came in, and when you came in down there, Alan, it was 2012. My job as a battalion sergeant major there was to push the theater out in 2012. We were closing down bases. We were sitting there almost close to 300 COBs, FOBs, FIPs, any other name you want to call them, little patrol bases. But it was like 280 of them we closed down. 9,000 TEUs, 20-foot equivalents. We couldn't go to the southern route to the port of Karachi. We had to go to the northern distribution route, which went through like 11 countries to include Russia, to get it back to Sierra. We did all those things right there to dwindle down. And that was in 2012, and I left early 2013. So my question is, why in the hell did it take all the way to freaking 2021 for this to happen? Because this is really what I believe, is we didn't know how to leave. We did not know how to leave. And I write this in a Friday Thoughts Ponders coming out this Friday. And I write it, and it's a short one, but I write about it. is I don't think there was any ill intent from a legislator, nor was there ill intent from a military senior leader. But I just think collectively, after Osama bin Laden was killed, if you wasn't in theater, it wasn't part of your mindset. You didn't think about it. We used to say this in Germany. Why do they always close down bases in Germany? Is because there is no voting district there. There's no congressional district there. There's no senatorial district there. Well, there was not one in Afghanistan either. So it was out of sight, out of mind. It wasn't intentional. If you asked a congressman, he would tell you who's passed away in his district, and he would make sure he goes and outreaches to those families as they should. But I think we got complacent and we didn't come up with an idea of what to do after that. Uh-oh. So, Alan, It might be just you and I before it's all over. Stephanie, I hope you come. Oh, there you are, Stephanie. So anyway.
I'm fading in and out. Sorry.
That's all right. We'll get you back up here, hopefully. And then the other thing I'll say is, if you think about this, if we would have pulled out right after Osama bin Laden had been taken out, we would have lost a little over 500. We would have saved around 500 people's lives. Out of the 2,346 that I know that were killed or died downrange, we would have saved 500. I think it's 47 or something. I wrote it in my Friday Thought to Ponder. And we would have saved, that many lives. And so that there's, I think, very interesting in itself. Not interesting. It's just tragic if you think about it, because why would we not do that? And all because we couldn't figure out the bubble on it. So with that there, I'm going to throw this question out. We're starting to move, from my understanding, interpreters that were over there. We're starting to move into Fort Lee. Don McCush, who was on last week, was talking about that. And my question is, what are your thoughts on it, Alan and Stephanie, on moving those interpreters? Should we have done that before we pulled out? Or are we trying to hit a grand slam in the ninth inning and we're down by 3? I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that right there?
Yeah, I agree. We should have, when we left, they should have left. I'm going to take us dealing with interpreters, especially when I was in Iraq. I didn't have to deal with a lot of them in Afghanistan, but even I had some there too, though. But those guys, they put themselves and their families in jeopardy. And I had interpreters who come to me and say, in Iraq, say, "Hey, I have to go home because they're going to kill my family. If I don't stop helping you, they're going to kill my family." And when they left the fob to go place, most of them would put a mask on their face. And you would think there was one of those special SWAT teams somewhere, and they were sneaking out of the fob to go visit their family and take food and money to them to help them out. So if we're going to ask them to help us and no one is putting their life in jeopardy, at least we can do is bring them to the States. And while we're in country with them, because some of them live on the fob, if they want to be a U.S. citizen, hey, let's start working them right there, working for that citizenship. So when they do come to Fort Lee or wherever, Fort Lee, hey, that process is already starting, and they can be here, because the next thing somebody's going to be yelling is we're bringing Afghan interpreters over here, but we're complaining about the folks coming from the South, and y'all bringing them from Afghanistan over here. So start it there, get it set up, because a lot of them they want to come to the United States, and that's one of their goals in helping us is the hope and thought of coming to a better place.
Stephanie, what's your thoughts on that right there?
I agree with you, Alan, 100%. I think we should protect them more. We didn't, as far as I remember, I didn't deal with a lot of interpreters in Iraq, but I do remember dealing with the gate guards, and they were scared to help us. I remember that. I remember them being terrified. I remember many of them covering their face on the way out. Like you said, you experienced as well. We absolutely should help those people. We should help their families. We should help protect them. And when we bring them back to the States, absolutely. If that's what they want, let's get them in, help them out. That way more people will be willing to help us out and stop seeing Americans as the bad guys all the time too. Because if, God forbid, we were to bring them back here and then it starts an all-out war and we have to send them back, what does that do for us in the future? If we ever need to go back, who's going to volunteer?
Stephanie, I agree on that. And my wife, she hit us up on the chat. She said, what about the interpreters' families? And that's a good question because I don't know that answer. I do know right now that the interpreters are making their way to the East Coast of Fort Lee and some other places, from my understanding. And I know some colonels that had direct interpreters that when they left, they made sure they were taken care of. But that was way back in the day. And I agree with you, Alan, is we should have probably done that process while we're over there. I mean, if you think about this, what did we do for soldiers who were not American citizens? We streamlined that process while downrange, and you would have somebody like General Petraeus, do their citizenship, the ceremony, and I can't think what the ceremony's called. I do apologize. Naturalization ceremony, or things of that nature. So why could we not have done that there? Because I know we had a hand in the State Department regarding that to expedite that, because we would do a mass one down there, and why not? Rightfully so. They given a lot, and what you said, Alan, is on point, and you too, Stephanie, is they were marked people at the end of the day. They had to worry about not just themselves, but their families, and they put a lot on the line for what we were doing over there, and we couldn't have done some of the things that we did if it wasn't for them. And I agree. And then, so one thing I'll say, and I didn't think we'd get this far on here, but we are, and I'll let both of you get a couple of minutes on it here. Right now, we have the interpreters that we are trying to get them over, which I personally think they should have came over just a tad bit earlier than we finally walking out the door. Now, they may have worked at that, coordinated that. We just don't know that, because sometimes that happens. We're all familiar with that. A lot of people don't know this, Stephanie, and I don't know if you even know this, is when we was in Delta Company 701st downrange, they were going to vote for the first time. Well, we held all the ballots at our warehouse. I'd never told anybody down there, except the only person that knew was the commander, myself, and the chief. And the soldiers didn't even know they were guarding them. They were guarding down there, and they didn't know where they were guarding. And we were guarding the official ballots for Iraq down there. And so this may very well be one of those scenarios where they may already have worked this, and we just don't know this. You know what I'm saying? I hope and pray that's the case. But currently, we have immigration challenges in our country. The coach has said this many times before. There's not a soul that doesn't want people to come to America and migrate who have endured hardship and things of that nature. It's just how we get there. It might be the part we bicker about. And we've talked about this, and my wife and I have watched, when you see a 5-year-old boy stand out in the middle of the desert because the coyote left him, that's not the 5-year-old boy's fault. That's a 5-year-old boy. Jesus Christ, that's a 5-year-old boy. So it seems it appears, and it gives the illusion right now, currently, that we've opened the southern border up and said, come as you will, even though we've flown down to Guatemala and Mexico and had to backtrack those comments. But we blocked it all off in Florida for the Cuban refugees, for the overthrow of the Cuban, of what happened down in the Cuban government. Not an overthrow, but what's happening down there. And we've made the fast train for some of these interpreters. And I'm just asking, what are your thoughts? Should it be equal all the way across the board? Because right now, they just interviewed yesterday that there's people down in Mexico that crossed the southern border that flew in to a place down in Mexico, rode a bus from there all the way to Acuna and crossed the border at Del Rio. And from Cuba, because they can't come, just a few miles north. They have to come that way. So I'm going to ask both of your thoughts on that there. Go ahead. Either one, you can start it out.
Go ahead, Alan, you start.
Hey, I look at this different. The people that work, the interpreters and their families, I think that's a whole different ball game. Mm-hmm. Those guys, the ones coming up from Mexico, Cuba, and all that, they're trying to get here, do it the right way, get here. Them interpreters, they put their life on the line for us while we were in country. And I'm gonna tell you, sometimes we had to trust this interpreter that he was telling us what was really being said and not feeding us a line of crap that was eventually going to get us killed. So, you know what? I have a little more sympathy for that guy and his family to get them in the States. than I do the ones. And those guys, we've already went through a process. We've already vetted these guys. Now we got to vet their families a little more probably, but that interpreter's been vetted. We know everything we can find out about them, because most of them don't even know their birthdays. So we've got everything we can on these guys. And these guys, like we've said 100 times on here tonight, laid their life and their families' lives on the line to help Americans. Hey, what are the guys that are coming from the South? What have they done for America besides want to come to America for a better life? And I got it. Let them come. Just do the right process. The interpreters, in my opinion, they've already succeeded the process.
What do you think, Stephanie?
Well, I disagree a little bit. So we have had Americans that have went off and joined, the Taliban. There were some American females that I think they were in their 20s a couple of years ago that went off and joined. And I believe they got themselves murdered, if I remember right. So it probably wasn't the best idea on their part. We absolutely need a better process. People in Mexico and Cuba, let's talk about Cuba. I'm in Florida. Cuba right now is going through a huge crisis. They're having access to water, to food, to electricity, to basic household, basic needs are taken from them. So yeah, we need a process to get people here, but people see America as a safe haven. Are we always? Maybe not. But people see America as a safe haven. They see us as a superpower. We're supposed to be the heroes. If a war breaks out, we're the first ones there to help back things up, or that's how America sees us. We should let people into our country a little faster than we are. Are they all going to be trustworthy? Absolutely not. But I know a few Americans, and I'm sure you guys do as well, that I wouldn't turn my back on. You couldn't pay me to turn my back on them. But for the Mexico thing, we've had people in cages for years. It's not a Trump thing. It's not an Obama thing. It's not a Biden thing. It's not a Bush thing. It's been going on for probably longer than I've been alive. But we got to get better with that. Because like you said, that 5-year-old kid that's, sitting out in the desert that somehow got left behind, which does happen because their parents hope that they can get away from the horrible stuff that's going on in Mexico by shoving them across the border because it's a kid. You'll take the kid in. But we didn't. We put them in a cage. There are plenty of Americans that could adopt or foster those kids until their parents are able to get across the border. We need a better solution. Absolutely 100% for that. Should we just open it up and make it a free-for-all? Absolutely not. But at the same time, we need a better process, and it needs to move faster. This has been like 30 years. We've had plenty of time to move this process along. We argue about pipelines every other day and fix that. Like the BP oil spill was fixed faster than people in cages. People in cages. That's ridiculous.
Stephanie, I kind of agree with everything you're saying there. Is one thing I'll say is I think Alan's heard me say this, and I know the coaches heard me say this. I personally believe the big challenge we have is Congress will not act on this because for some of them it's political suicide. Either way, on both sides of the aisle, it's political suicide. If it's to the left or it's to the right, it's political suicide if they get it wrong. And so that I think it's kind of like Afghanistan after 2011. They just kind of let it go and it'll fade out after each president starts taking over for a little while. And so I think the presidents have all, whether you like them or not, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump, and Biden, have kind of all, I think they all kind of said the same thing. Let it be as ugly as we can get it. Because that's the only way we're going to change anything, because we're not changing anything if we just say it's all fixed and it's all okay. And I think we need legislation to change it, because I agree, the process is insane. My wife, she's an immigrant, but she's an immigrant from Europe. Should that change how things are done? I don't know if it should or shouldn't. She served in the Army and she became a citizen. But that there was not an easy process then. I'm a history major, and I look back at the test, and I would scratch my head on 2 of those questions outright that she had to answer. I was like, I didn't know that, and I got a master's in history. Come on now. So I don't think it has to be as hard as that. I think there is a challenge, though, and I agree with what you were saying as well, Alan, but I think there is one challenge. Do the people who are on the other side that are trying to come in, do they know what is required of them to get in? And I think 60% is probably yes, they do. Okay. But I also think there's a good 40% that probably have no clue what they need to get in. That's a shame there. And I don't know how we filter that out to fix that problem. When you're coming in with phone numbers on their thing, so you can call, I hope it's a good phone number, not a bad phone number, but a phone number not tattooed, but inked in their kid's arm, so they can, what has become to get somebody to get their kid up like that, to push them off this 5 years old by themselves, That's ridiculous. This is insane. And of course, there's exploitation out the wazoo with the coyotes and the drug cartels. And if anybody doesn't believe that's happening, you need a wake-up call, because those things do happen. They don't mean everybody's involved in it, but they are a major player in there, So anyway, hey, we covered about 50 minutes here. The coach had to go out on emergency, and we do apologize on that. And I'm hoping everything's all right with him. And I'll let people know about if it is written and all those other things later. But I am truly grateful for both. Alan, man, you're like freaking you're on here more than I am almost. I mean, and Stephanie, it's dang good to have you on here as well. So I'm going to give both of y'all. I'm going to start out with Alan just because he starts with an A, and I'm going to go to Stephanie at the end. And that makes it easy for me because I can figure those things out and ask if you got anything, you want to say anything out to the public world. And go ahead, Alan, what you got?
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you, I love it. Every time I'm on here, I love it. I learn something every time I'm on. It's like going to school most of the time. Like I told you, I don't ever want to be on here with Ira because I can't talk with that guy. I love listening to him, though, because, man, it's like listening to all the news bunched up into one in a history class all together, because that dude's awesome.
He comes prepared.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He does his homework. But it's great being on here. One, I get to see you. I get to see Brent. I don't really get to come home. So this makes getting to see each other a little more often. But it's great. It's great being on here. I wish we could get more folks on this up here watching. We need to spread the word, get some folks on here. A lot of good things. We want. When I'm on here, I want you to tell me if you think I'm wrong. Let me know. He ain't gonna hurt my feelings. But it's great. Stephanie, it's great meeting you, man. I wish I could see a roller derby event, man. That'd be awesome. Watch some women beat up on each other, man. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Ian,
there's probably one near you.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's one in Bell County somewhere. But it was great, Ian. I enjoyed it. Like I said, anytime you need me, I'm starting to feel like Regis filming it on David Letterman. He's been on David Letterman more than anybody else, and I'm starting to feel like Regis.
Stephanie, what do you got?
A lot of the same. I appreciate you having me on, knowing I'm obviously a opposite viewpoint on a lot of things. I appreciate you letting me be on here and hear me out. I very much appreciate the respectfulness that is on your show. I've listened to it a few times. I'm not sitting the first time, but I really like hearing the different. I really like hearing the different sides of points of views, and like you're not always right, so it's nice to hear a different way.
Yes,
of seeing things.
Yes.
Even I can admit that. No, it was fun. If you need me back, give me a call. I don't want to be Alan. Okay, you can't. I'll be whoever is next to Regis. I don't know who's next to Regis.
Well, Stephanie, I will say I appreciate it, and we do. We crave to have a different point of view on here because we tend to gravitate to people who we're comfortable with. And like, yeah, we can talk about this all day because nobody's going to buck up to us. And something the coach and I've often talked about is we all come from different places, and that's what defines us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Is how we grew up or how our experiences have molded us to who we are. And just because somebody disagrees with me doesn't mean they're not a good person. Doesn't mean that I can't hang out with them, enjoy everything else with them. I just, somebody likes the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't like their football team with them. I have to like the Dallas Cowboys. I go to a game with them. I can drink a beer with them, and we've lost that in America. We really have. Is we think that they said this, so I can't stand them, and I'm like, why would we disown somebody for over a freaking political view, if anything, or something
absolutely.
Like that?
Yeah.
Is
there's been plenty. Those arguments on Facebook are ridiculous. Seriously,
they are.
Where people unfriend people because they voted for somebody. What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I'm like, why would you do that? So you choose politics, which 40 years ago, we wouldn't even talk politics in public. You choose politics over friendship. really? What kind of person is that? So, but I got the utmost respect for both of you, and I've had the pleasure deploying with both of you and seeing both of you downrange. And I know if John Brent was here, he would take his hat off for you on that part because he always respects our veterans.
Yep.
And Stephanie, I'd love to have you on again. And Alan, I'm going to love to have you on again as a not a backup, but as the main guy. All right.
Hey, I like being a backup. It puts my feet to the fire.
Yes.
Maybe this time you'll get the script.
Yes. And I'm bad with the script. So I'm going to hit the ending here and we'll close it out. All right. So here we go.
Good night.